Hi and welcome to another video from Peacock Archery. I'm Philip Watson and today we've got another in our Essential Kit series. Today we're going to have a look at our bracing height gauge. So today we're going to take a look at an essential piece of kit, and that's your bracing height gauge. I've got a couple of examples here, a couple of cartel ones, one in black, one in blue, and another one here, slightly different. Cartel ones, find them everywhere. They're very cheap. They're about £5 UK. Nice thing is that they are engraved. Downside is that it's not always easy to see that engraving on the gauge, but you can fix that by putting some correction fluid in that and wiping it on, then wiping it off, and it'll fill the gaps in so you can see that a little bit easier. Other sort, this has got the markings silk screened on. A lot easier to see what's going on. Downside is that that can rub off over time. I've had this one for donkey's years and this one's still going strong, so choice is yours. So everybody should have one sat in their quiver. Most important thing is, what do we use it for? So I'm going to grab my bow, and there's a few key measurements that we use our bracing height gauge for. First off is we can use it for measuring our tiller. So tiller's an interesting one. It's the difference between that distance there and this distance here. And the reason we have a difference is because we're not holding the bow in the center. The geometric center of the bow is there. And when we're shooting, we're actually holding the string slightly above halfway, which means this top limb is moving further than the bottom limb. To compensate for that, we change the strength of the limbs differentially. We make the bottom limb a little bit stiffer than the top limb by winding the tiller bolts in and out. We need to measure that so we know that we've got it right. We're looking for about 5 millimeters. So about 1/4 of an inch of positive tiller. So if I measure that across there, so that is 17.5, and that is 17. So we've got our 5 millimeters of positive tiller. So there's our first measurement. Second thing we're looking at is bracing height. Now, bracing height is measured to the pivot point of the bow, and by definition the pivot point should be the throat of the grip. Now it depends a lot on how each bow is manufactured, whether they actually follow the manufacturing guidelines. The pressure button, the Berger button hole, should also be directly opposite the pivot point of the bow. This bow has got, my bow has got an aftermarket grip on. This is a Jaeger grip, and the throat of the grip is not quite in line with the pivot point of the bow with the Berger button. So rather than guess, clip it on and measure to the Berger button, to the pressure button hole. You'll see an awful lot of people measuring it like this. That's fine so long as it's your bow and you only ever measure it that way. So what you're looking at there is not the absolute, but you're looking at the relative position of the brace height. But one thing's certain: you should measure the brace height every single time that you put your bow together. And probably after a couple of dozen shots you should measure it again just to make sure that it hasn't moved. So there's our second measurement: tiller, brace height. Third thing we can measure is our knocking point position. I'll just whiz it round so I can see to get it in the right place. So what we're looking for is for the bracing height gauge to just barely sit on the arrow rest. Then we measure, this is our datum line here, we measure from there upwards, and the top of the bottom nock should be in the same place as much tiller as we have. So if we've got 5 millimeters of tiller, the top of the bottom nock should be at 5 millimeters as well as a starting point. Obviously we're going to do some bare shaft planing tests, some tuning tests to prove that that's where it needs to be. But as a starting position, nock point same as the amount of tiller that we've got. You'll notice that I'm holding the bow horizontally. I'm not holding it sideways, because the weight of the bracing height gauge can often lead to a slight misreading. As you can see there, I can tweak the limbs simply by putting weight on them. So we dangle it from the string. That's another measurement. Now, the other one was taught to me a few years ago, and when you see it, you recognise that, why didn't I think of that before? And V-bars, we'll often spend a lot of time making sure that our V-bars are completely flat. Well, if you use your bracing height gauge, stick it on, put it opposite on one of your weights, flip it over, you can immediately see whether your V-bars are flush or not. And simply with a little bit of tweaking, you can get them to line up so your V-bars are completely flat. And another handy little task for your bracing height gauge. So, as you can see, useful bit of kit. Should always have one in your quiver, or certainly close at hand in your tackle box. Not expensive, multitude of uses. I've just shown you a few there. That's about it. So, thanks very much for watching, and see you again next time.